This is Keyed In with Max and Brent, unlocking the minds of the industry's top real estate professionals. And now, here are your hosts, Max Rabin and Brent Jackson.
Welcome to the Keyed In podcast. I am your host, Brent Jackson.
And I'm Leslie Backoff.
Sounds a little different from Max. What's going on?
Well, I'm happy to guest host today with Max off.
Yes, Max is away this week. He will be sorely missed, but we will still have a great episode. Today's guest is with One Street Company, Samir. Samir's been in the industry since 2012, and he's led his team to be one of the top teams in all of Washington, D.C. He is the CEO and founder of One Street Company. He is committed to looking things with a fresh perspective. As an innovator in the field, Samir and his team have transformed the real estate experience with fierce competition, technology, and data-fueled approach that closes partnerships with all of their clients across the board. I've had an in-depth conversation with him at one of the most recent Washington Wizards game, and this guy is full of energy and looking forward to having a great conversation. Samir, welcome to the show. We'll dive right in here and get into how you got into real estate. Kind of give us your origin story.
Sure. Well, thanks for having me. Good morning. Well, I got into real estate at the age of 18. My father was in the business for about 10 years prior to me, just single man shop.
Was he selling like as a developer or as an agent?
Just as a broker.
Okay.
He started in the 80s just as a single person shop, had a mortgage company, AK Financial, AK Real Estate. I got out of high school and he was pushing me to get a license, like get one. I was like, no, I don't care. I'd rather wait tables, make $100 a night, leave me alone. And then I went to college, went to Towson University, and I remember taking my exam like 4 or 5 times until I passed it. I was more into just going out than really caring about studying. Then I finally got my license. My parents ended up moving overseas around that time as well, so I took over the brokerage. I mean, the brokerage was just a license on a door with a couple agents. It wasn't anything crazy.
I remember it was at AK
Real Estate.
AK Real Estate. Yeah. I remember that.
Yeah.
Was that DC or was that Maryland?
It was at the time. It was Maryland, pretty much.
Okay.
I think we had our Virginia license at the time, so we were doing residential and commercial real estate and property management.
Okay, so you have your broker license as well.
Yeah, I mean, after 3 years, I got today I have all 3 broker's licenses. Yeah.
So when did you relocate to DC? Because if I remember correctly, you're located right on the Florida Avenue right now, right?
No, I'm on I Street currently. 1725
okay.
I, a couple blocks from the IMF, World Bank, and the White House. But I got into my goal to get into DC, and I remember writing in my goal book was in 2008, March 2008, that I wanted to open in DC. It didn't happen until actually June of 2013.
Okay.
And then I got my second office in 2017, the retail space that we're currently in right now.
Okay.
So my whole goal was to get out of Germantown, which was local, and go to DC, which was global. I always thought a giraffe would know where the White House was versus where Bethesda was, or Germantown.
Right. Germantown. Yeah, well, I was up in Germantown this past weekend for a tennis tournament at, well, I guess, I don't know if it's Germantown or Bethesda, but it was Lakewood Country Club.
Yeah.
So like up there, it's tough to get up there for me.
Yeah.
Coming from Capitol Hill.
For sure.
So, so did you have a mentor getting into the business? You said your father kind of guided you, gave you some.
Yeah, he pushed me to get into the business. I was kind of like an entrepreneur on my own, right? I think, I don't know if it's culturally or whatnot, but it was just kind of like I've been working since I was 13 years old. I was worked at a pizzeria at 13. I worked at Applebee's as a mid cook at 16. I was waiting tables at 18. So I was always hustling and bustling, right? I didn't like the word no, so I wanted to be like more responsible, pay for things, and just be able to do whatever I wanted. So I would tell you that he pushed me to getting a license, but from there it's kind of, I've been on my own. I've been bootstrapped for my entire career, and kind of had to fall on my face a couple times here and there and figure things out. And when you have no one telling you no, it's like your world's your oyster. So my first 10-year run was insane. No internet, no Zillow, just all the yellow pages. It was more of the knock on the door, meet people at the bars, the restaurants, the clubs, or whatever it was. And that's kind of how the career kind of took off from there.
So were you actively selling early on, or were you kind of growing your book of business? With
I mean, my first sale happened when I was throwing trash out at That's Amore in Rockville Pike, where Matchbox is. One guy was like, hey, I want to buy a foreclosure. I said, to myself, I was like, what is that? And then I figured out the next day where you can go on HUD.gov and figure out how to get him a foreclosure. Next day I said, sure, let's get a foreclosure. Put in a bid, made $5,000 on a piece of paper. And then I got him a property on Xenia Circle in Middlebrook, off Middlebrook Road in Germantown. And then I remember when I got my first check, I quit. I was like, I'm out. I was like, I will never be succumbed to a clock. I can't look at a clock. It says it's 5 p.m. and it's 3. I got 2 more hours to go. Hell no, I was done with it.
Right.
So even though it was probably the dumbest decision I made, because I should have stuck it out and made some extra cash flow. So if I'm ever going to teach somebody something, make sure you have reserve, make sure you have cash flow before you get into the business. And at that time, there wasn't as many resources as there is today. But that's how I got into it. It was a fluke kind of thing. Got him a foreclosure, sold it, and I was like, I quit. I'm out of here. I'm not doing this waiting tables or anything. So at 18 years old, I was totally fully active and ready to rock.
That's awesome.
So your first year into the business, can you kind of walk us through that? So you quit at age 18. Like, what did that first year look like? I mean, Leslie can talk about her first year, but we hear some really good stories and some struggles, sleeping on couches and friends and this, that, and the other.
No, I was already working. I had, kind of my own credit cards. I had a car. It was exciting. I had a great time. It was like I felt loose. I felt free. I felt like a bird. I mean, it's I didn't really understand what I was getting myself into, but I love to meet people. I love the hustle and bustle, the wheeling and dealing, the negotiation, and figuring things out. I still, to this day, self-teach myself a lot of things. But my first year was incredible. I made that sale. He renovated it. I flipped it.
That's awesome.
And then I got referrals out of it. And I remember my second sale, I got a phone call to the office. We only had one phone line at the time, and that was the same shared dial-up system for the internet. So if you were on the internet and the phone rang, it was over.
Right.
It was like, like DSL. But I remember the lady called. We were AK Real Estate, so we were the first one on the Yellow Pages. So she called, and she goes, "Can you sell commercial property?" I remember pressing the hold button. My dad was at the office at the time. We were in Rockville, Hungerford Drive. And I'm like, "Dad, do we sell commercial?" He's like, "Look at your business card." I'm like, "Okay, business, commercial." Okay, yes, ma'am. We sell commercial. And then I remember my second sale was where Marlowe Furniture is in Rockville. There's something called Barrister Place. So 4 or 5 townhomes next to the Jeep dealer. I ended up selling 2 of those row houses down there, and that was my second sale. And then I ended up selling a house in Dufeef Mill. So, I did pretty well. At 19, 20 years old, I was pulling in a 7-figure 1099, believe it or not.
That's awesome.
Just
That's
from
impressive.
relationship.
Yeah,
It was
really
pretty
impressive.
insane. But
Yeah.
it was way too much money for a kid. And, by age 19, 20, I had about 9 houses that I bought. Right. So I learned
as investments.
and investments and, place to live. So my first house I ever bought was in College Park, University of Maryland, where I turned a 3-bedroom into a 5, lived for free. And I remember I hired not hired, but I put in 10 as a political science major, and then 2 contractors. And then I remember them, giving them free rent and utilities for doing my homework. So I was all about the outsourcing.
Awesome.
I was already an operator, if you will, at a young
hustler,
age.
yeah.
But it took me more time to cheat my way through school than it did to actually do it. But, here nor there. But I had the right brain, the right mindset.
So you were working then all throughout college as well. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah. My notebooks did not have notes at school. It just had how many commissions and files, and they would be diagonal because that's how my brain was thinking at the time.
Yeah.
And then from class to class, because I ended up going to University of Maryland.
Okay.
After coming back from Towson, Montgomery College, then University of Maryland. And just from those 15-minute breaks was just on the phone doing deals.
Wow.
It's pretty insane.
Yeah, that's a busy life. I feel like for a college student. Plus, then you're
I didn't really feel like I was a college student.
Yeah.
I was like just there. Like it was a waste of my time because I was great at school. I think I could have been pushed even more, but I was very bored. And I just love that controlled chaos, if you will. Yeah. And of course, at a young age, you don't know what you're really comparing things to. But school was just there, and I went Tuesdays and Thursdays because it was 8 days a month. That's how I thought of it. And if I skipped Tuesday, Thursday, I had a whole week off. And I finagled my way through. But I was just not present even in class. My mind was always running on something else, which I didn't know what it was, but I was always forward thinking. And I just didn't know what success was or money was. I didn't care about any of that. I just wanted to win. And so I just had that drive to continue to push and meet people and just kind of, carve my way, if you will.
That's awesome. So when then did you decide to create your own brokerage?
Yeah. So, in essence, my father had the broker's license for years. And so I basically from there started to scale, opened up an office in Germantown with, I think by 2002-ish, 2003. Then, started hitting up all my friends. Hey, you should get in the business. You should become a loan officer, become a real estate agent, create that sphere of influence. And everyone started buying and selling, started growing from there, hiring agents, hiring loan officers. We got pretty big at the time.
When you first started, how many, when you were, I guess at 18, how many were in AK real estate at that point?
I think at that time, I know it was me and my father, obviously. And then there's probably 2 or 3 other people, max, just people that he knew. And my father was really big into property management. So the guy would live in eviction court. Okay. But in the end, it was cool because he was smart. He had the mortgage company at the time. You get a pre-approval, you walk out the door with an agent.
Okay.
So the mindset was forward thinking for
Yeah,
sure.
smart.
And then the property management was a very consistent income, if you will, because they're always going to rent, or they're going to end up selling, or they want to buy more assets.
So take us back to when you were scaling your business. Like, how many people did you have starting out as far as on your team,
Sure.
growing, like the loan officers, the agents?
Yeah, I mean, in that early 2000s, I mean, I got to a place where I had about 10 to 12 agents,
Okay.
and then we had at least 15 to 20 loan officers. And, it was AK Financial at the time. This is the time where you didn't have to have a license, right? The rates were coming in on a fax machine. Wells Fargo and not Liberty Mutual, Washington Mutual, Countrywide,
Yeah.
Flagstar, all these companies were coming into your office, as like sales reps, right? And they were coming in there telling you how to work your deals and whatnot. So it was a wild, wild west at the time.
Right.
But we had no idea, because
Right.
that's just whatever the banking rules were the banking rules. So it was a pretty cool shop. It was in Germantown near my old high school. I went to Seneca Valley, where I graduated from there in '99. And so we had a sign on the building I was proud of, and we had about 3,000 square feet of space, and we turned into a call center in the evening, because I was still figuring out how to do leads.
Right.
So we had an
Yeah.
Indian call center at one point where we'd deliver live transfers between like 5 and 7 p.m. It was just cool.
Wow.
I was living a very cool life, because you're just like in total control of your driver's seat, doing what you're doing, having fun, just being young, being around your friends, so making money. I mean, you couldn't beat that at the time.
So you go back to like the call center. So can you elaborate to our listeners like what the call center is? Like, what are you doing to drum up business and lead generation?
Yeah, sure. I mean, at the end of the day, at some point, your mom and dad, your cousin, your friend isn't going to buy a house every day. They'll buy lunch maybe, but that's about it. They're not going to keep buying property. So even at that time, it's like, how do you scale and reach and push? And, through relationships, I had a friend of mine who was selling like, Sprint and Nextel licenses, and he hooked me up through an avenue to a call center in India. And they had call centers in the Philippines and all over the place. But the concept was, okay, let's buy some credit data. Let's get some data from wherever we can get it, from the 3 credit bureaus, and feed it to them, teach them how to, to not say sell, but more over like screen. And then I built a dialer system, like through dial-up phone lines. And then between 5 and 7 p.m., we'd have our loan officers stick in the cubicles, and then there's live transfers just keep coming in. And so it was just, I mean, it was kind of, actually I haven't been asked that question in a long time. So even going backwards, like, wow, what the hell did we do? But we were always trying to buy leads or paper leads or anything that you still have access to today to know what equity position people are in, what rates they have. And I forgot the damn vendors' names, but we had access to that. But our mindset was like, you can't just live in your bubble. You can't just live in a zip code. We were always thinking ahead and like, how do you find more reach? And we thought by creating more loan leads for loans, it would in turn create a product for the agent.
Got it. So it was mostly that the lenders were calling to give the rates. Here's what you're
the
for.
ISAs, the inside sales reps overseas were calling through the lists. And then if they got the person on the phone, they'd live connect it right to the loan officer.
Got it.
And then whoever answered the phone first would obviously get the call. It's kind of like Boiler Room, like
That's what I'm thinking of, like Wolf of Wall Street, Boiler Room.
Totally,
that's what I'm
100%.
thinking
Right. It was awesome.
Yeah,
but it was cool. But I mean, to have them stay that late, but it was like, it was the heyday. It was amazing. Right. Again, there's no big internet stuff. There's nothing. I mean, it was like you really had to go kill to eat.
Right. So yeah, I mean, you're growing your business during the 2007, 2008 period. So then, I mean, what kind of happened during
that was a fun
crash?
I don't ski, but I totally went down slalom. Right? So that was something else, right?
Yeah.
So like I had amassed 9 homes for myself. One I lived in, and 8 investment properties at the time. I was doing construction on stuff. Pretty much had done every type of deal known to man. And then I doubled my office size at the time.
Oh wow.
Yeah, against other people's wishes, and I didn't know better. But I was like, I'm so stubborn, and I wanted to grow. So I was like, all right, let's do it. So I doubled the size. And that's when the time where they changed the mortgage way of doing business to licensing.
Okay.
And then then we kind of had to can that whole situation because it took too long to go get licenses and change this. And so I went and I started figuring out how to work at like correspondent lenders, right, where you can work under them. And then I remember the first bad problem that we had was as soon as somebody early defaulted on a mortgage payment, they held your P&L. So like all the money you were making was stuck. And then you had all these employees in front of you that you had to pay. I remember I never made one check when I transferred over to these new mortgage companies because I had to pay the people in front of you, right?
Wow.
And then from there, you started to see the houses start to take a dip, right? Even myself, I was buying 100% loan LTVs, doing rent backs for sellers. I mean, so I didn't really lose per se because I didn't really put money in. But you did lose that fake mirage equity, if you will.
Right.
And then I lost, 7 of my 9 homes to short sale, maybe 1 to foreclosure. But the funny thing is, the political science major that I not hired, but I guess I put in my house at College Park, became my attorney. And then I created a short sale business out of it. So I called it Home Protection Services USA. And so I learned at that time, while I was losing my own homes, how to negotiate with Bank of America, Chase, the insolvency tax codes and the IRS. I mean, how to negotiate with HOAs and condo boards, all this stuff. It was insane. 4 lien homes, paying the first trust, paying the second to the third. It was an experience of a lifetime. So that's how I survived during that time. But I didn't know any better. I mean, you're losing your shirt, can't pay your credit cards. You had a couple bucks in your pocket, but yet the attitude stayed the same, and we kept on the right path. But it was slice and dice. And I remember at the time I had so much office space. I started renting out to a jeweler, a ghostwriter, a chiropractor, an insurance agent, another insurance agent. I had other government contractor in there. So I filled up the whole space, and I had 1 corner office for myself, and just debt was stacking. But in the end, I just remember, and I was teaching my agents this yesterday, was I never ran away from the bills, and I never ran away from the debts, and I answered every phone call, and they were shocked by it. Because I was like, if you face it head on, just like today, if somebody calls you and you don't have an update, it's better to answer and say, I don't have an update, than just to run away and hide like a turtle, right? People have a checklist in their head, and you got to scratch it off and keep it moving. And so at that time, I learned a lot in Wealth in the Mind that, maybe I shouldn't have grown. But I lived off of my own homes. At some point, I was taking the rents from my houses that were rented, and I was paying my bills for the office. And at least as a landlord, I knew I was telling my tenants, like, hey, don't worry, you're not going to get kicked out. And then I was able to do modifications and or short sale them over a period of time, right? So that taught me a lot, and also made me refocus and reshift and say, okay, I'm not invincible. Maybe I need to take a step back and learn. So the first 10-year ride was insane. And then I almost moved to Costa Rica and worked on a development project. That didn't happen because the lady ended up dying. But then I moved to California.
Crypto or Bitcoin?
No, this was a 3,000 acre piece of land in Costa Rica that we were going to develop. And then I remember even negotiating with the government for a 99-year lease on an island, all this crazy stuff. Then I moved to California to Newport Beach, and I worked at an REO fund where we were buying, quit claim deeds for like $1 to $100, and then they had, tax liens, grass cutting liens, and we were basically putting portfolios together by fixing them up and then making them performing assets, and then selling them off.
What year was this?
This is in 2009.
2009.
Okay.
And how long were you in California?
6 months.
6 months.
Yeah, I couldn't
Did
afford
you still
it.
have the brokerage back in?
Yeah, we
DC?
still had it, but I mean,
Okay.
it was just I was confused. I was like, probably looking back, like, what's going on? What am I gonna do?
When you had to make a shift, I mean,
Yeah.
it's a crazy time. You had to
totally.
do something.
And we moved out of Newport Beach when it was $4,000 a week for the rental versus
Wow.
$4,000 a month. So I was like,
Right.
okay, we got to get out of here. This is
Yeah.
enough. I was like, we're too poor, so let's go back and finish what you started. And that's kind of when the next 10-year run came.
Okay, so starting around 2010-ish,
So
2009.
10 was cleanup year, and then 2011 was the year of the next chapter, if you will.
Yeah.
Okay, so you want to go into the cleanup year? Do you want to go right into 2011 and
Sure.
this next boom? And when did you come to DC from Germantown?
Yeah. So, I realized that, one by one, he started cleaning up, started selling off all the assets. I ended up keeping 2 homes, modifications. I still have them today, 2 rental properties. And so, I learned a lot from that. Actually made money from selling my own homes as well. So that's made me survive.
That's awesome.
I went back to the landlord, renegotiated a whole new lease, got rid of $300,000 in debt. I wasn't personally liable for it. I remember running a report on CoStar telling him, your buildings are 80% vacant, buddy. I was like, you need me. So let's start a fresh chapter. And he was like, who are you? How did you figure that out? Because I was such a young guy at the
Right.
time when I signed the lease. So cleaned that up. So I basically worked behind me and cleaned up everything that really was holding me back. And then got to a place where it's like, okay, it's just me and an admin. Let's start again. How am I going to create value? What can I give besides my brain? And then I got a phone call from Zillow. And that's really where the next really big
Interesting.
wave happened. And getting into that, it was late 2011. I was already burned like crazy. I'm exhausted from all the vendors and everyone that's trying to sell me something. But the one cool thing, the takeaway was I didn't let what my past, I didn't hold the past into the future, meaning that I didn't shut down for opportunity. And when I got a phone call, it took 2 weeks. A guy called, his name is Cody, a good friend of mine. Like, hey man, we're with Zillow.com. We'd like to get you a zip code. I'm like, what are you talking about? And I was just like, leave me alone. Call me again. Call me again. Call me again. And I remember sitting with my buddy at the Wizards game, and I'm like, this company called Zillow keeps calling me all the time. He's like, what's that? I was like, I don't know, man. He's like, why don't you look into it?
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, fine, fair enough. So I looked into it, and then basically I said, you know what, maybe I won't go out to dinner. Maybe I won't go out, for a day, and I'll spend the $117 that this guy wants me to spend. Maybe he'll leave me alone.
So that was $117 to get like a zip code.
One zip code. It was Hyattsville at the time.
Right. And that's just for listeners, basically your name and you're the main person getting the leads from that zip code.
So basically there's a couple
correct?
people in that, it's like share of
Yeah.
voice. There's 100% pie, and maybe 3 or 4 people would get a certain percentage. But yes, I would show up a certain amount of times in front of a front-facing consumer
Okay.
and potentially get an inquiry.
Got it.
And so I bought that zip code, and I said, screw it. And then I remember getting a phone call, and I was like, okay, this is cool. And then it was really, I bought it just for him to go, F off. Like, leave me alone. Just don't call me again, bro.
For $100,
Like, leave
just
me
leave me
alone,
alone.
okay? Just, like, screw yourself. And I remember getting a lead, and I was like, okay, this is cool. This is exactly what I need. All right. And then it worked. And then I was like, okay. And then I remember about 2 weeks later, I had an intern now, an admin at the front desk, and myself. Everyone else was gone to salary jobs or whatever the hell they went. And then he's like, Sam, we're opening a 4th slot on Zillow, which instead of 3, we're going to open a 4th one. And I was like, what does that mean to me? He's like, that means just pick any zip code you want in Maryland, D.C., Virginia. You may get a couple. I'm like, all right. So that night, I'm like, sit there, and I gave him every zip code everywhere because he was like, you're only going to get a couple. So I walk into a listing appointment, and I remember I was in Muddy Branch area in Gaithersburg. I come out with my intern from the thing. He calls me. He's like, Sam. I'm like, what's up, Cody? He's like, are you ready? I was like, ready for what, man? He's like, you got all the zip codes. I was like, what? I went from $117 to $33,000 a month.
$33,000 a month.
A month, yeah, and spend. So it was like from there to there. I was like, what? I was like, what? I was like, what do you mean I got them all? And he's like, you don't have to take them all. And then I was like, I'm taking them all. And then that's when it went crazy. So that it was insane, the amount of lead flow, but I basically went on a tear, and I was like, let me go back to everyone I met that I liked. And I remember going down to Muscle Bar, talking to the bartender, got her on board, met with her father. I was like, I need your daughter to work with me, and then I met a client off of Zillow, and I turned him into another guy. And then I just went around the whole area and picked up every badass that I remember organically. And I said, I can't be at all these places at the same time. It's impossible. But why would I let this opportunity go?
Right.
This is buying real estate on Monopoly board. And I was like the first poster child for them at one point, buying as much as I bought, the amount of reviews. But I was like, this is pretty gold, because now I have something of tangible value in an archaic industry where I can give something, not just my head and my brain, but I could build something off of this. And of course, as long as I had the ROI, and I was selling too, so I was making enough money to cover the nut. But I was like, it was pretty ballsy. I mean, my intern,
$33,000 a month is a lot.
That's
a lot. Well, I got up to 100,000 at one point, so we can get into that. But I mean, that was the start of a new chapter. And that was, I call it the trampoline, if you will, right? It allowed me to go from a guy that had, look, back in the time, and maybe today, there's a little bit of percentage of that, where it's like, what's your company name? I never heard of it. Where's your office at? Oh, you're too far. How can you sell in Capitol Hill or Georgetown or McLean? You're in Germantown. And I understood that part, and that's why DC was something in my mindset. But then with the internet, it started to kind of go at where it's like, it didn't matter what your company was. It's who you were. And so I was a product of like the technology booming, me saying, how can I compete? And then realizing that I don't really care what other people are doing. I'm writing my own story. I'm my own competition. I could give 2 craps about what everyone else is doing. Stay in your lane and focus. And that's what I did to myself. And I kept on going, and I kept on building. And that's how I continued to scale. Within 3-4 years later, I was upwards of 70,000 to 100 grand a month, all the way till October 2020, until I got into the Flex program. But in essence, I was able to build my brokerage this way by adding tools and systems and resources and training, and then being able to bring people in that had nothing, but they were great people. And that's, I believe in. It's like, I'm a gut guy. I don't read resumes, really. I don't, never read a book. But like, moreover, it's like, I know if I like you. And we all don't go past the first page of Google or Amazon, right? You either like somebody or you don't. So like, I just went with my intuition, picked up as many people as I could, and then worked with my core, and slowly kept on adding more systems and tools throughout the years.
So can you quantify those two numbers? Like $33,000 a month, it's roughly $360,000 a year the first year. And you said you got up to 120,000 a month?
100 grand.
100 grand. So like, how much were you getting back from Zillow as far as you're closing X amount of dollars?
I was making 2.5x.
I'm sorry, how
2.5 times.
Oh, wow.
2.5 times that?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that, I would assume, was your primary lead source then.
Yeah, I mean, look, in the beginning, I mean, I have all my numbers, but in late 2011, I did about $49 million just in the last 6 months of 2011. That was just me. And then the following year, I remember got to double that to the 100+ million.
Okay.
And then from there, it was always 200 million plus. But basically, in the first couple of years, it was about 60-70% of my pipeline was lead flow. And then when we got to really when we got bigger into 2015, 16, 17, it was around 33% to 40%. It wasn't big because I always still a firm believer, even though as an operator, my delta is more on the lead side, but I really believed in being multidimensional. So as a leader, you want to teach your agents not to just focus on one bucket, to focus on doing not just rentals, but buyers, sellers, investors. Learn the ladder, because in the end, you can't be dependent on the heroin. You know what I'm saying? So like, even to this day, as I told my agents yesterday, we can't just be dependent on one bucket. You need to be multifaceted, because you just never know. But as a real businessman, I should draw the line and say, I make the most money in the corner here. But I never did that. And thank God I didn't do that, because it's good to have a ratio of different things, right? Like last year was my biggest year since years ago, where it was about 49.8 to 51% in that range of lead flow based on my entire total pipeline of brokerage sales. But that goes well because when we first started doing leads, a lot of those agents initially used that as their diversification tool, reinvested in themselves, bought their own type of leads, and they became really big self-gen agents. So I have a lot of test cases, if you will, that have really used that as a platform to grow. And then you bring in the next wave.
So that's more like an eagle view, like eagle eye view of the 50% that is coming in lead gen. Are you working any of those leads, or it gets pushed out to the agents?
Yeah, I stopped taking leads, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago, 6 years ago. I mean, I brought a partner in almost 3 years ago, where I wanted to be more of an operator and a CEO, if you will, to be able to manage and build the company. And so, I mean, I still did 50 million in 21 between him and I, but I gave him all my clients. And then I think this year we did 30 something. But I still have my own clients through time.
Yeah.
I'm a farmer. I've been laying seeds for a long time and, nurturing them, a little fertilizer here and there. And then, they come back. So again, my name still sells, and I think I'll still have a name, but luckily I have a person where I can give that business to. But majority of our agents, the good ones, maybe it's 75% self-gen and 25% leads. A lot of other ones are 50 to 75% lead flow, right? And, at the end of the day, as time goes on, at some point you run out of your sphere. But I always tell agents, look, it's a good diversification tool. Use this to take a little bit of cash and reinvest in something else. Don't go and reinvent the wheel. Don't try to go, not say compete with me, but really when you look at the online world, there's not many platforms that you can use. And most agents are very impatient. If you don't get like a lead in the first month, you're going to cry about it. Yeah. And then the second month and third. Well, you know what? SEO, PPC, SMO, all these different, backlinks, blogs. I mean, I'm very versed in the marketing world. It's not easy, and it takes time. And it takes years and years and years to build a flow of traffic, not just from buying from a platform, right? So Zillow was great in the sense that I learned, what technology was like, what the disruption is going to be like. But it wasn't something that to this day is something that I'm dependent on. I've always been trying to get out of that. And what can I spend my money on something else? But when I look at how the delivery of calls come in as a live transfer and the client's on the line versus going to buy 10,000 Facebook leads, I don't know. I don't know if you want to pick up and dial like a boiler room. I think our agents are too spoiled, and they're used to a certain type of delivery. And I think this new day and age, you have to continue to deliver that type of product.
So the systems that you have in place, do you have an ISA that is baking the lead, so to speak, and when that buyer is ready to go out and purchase, it gets pushed off to an agent? Can you kind of walk us? Because I think Carrie Shull is big in that, as far as like having a team of ISAs, letting them make the decision of, okay, this person is ready to go buy that condo in Georgetown, and agent A is the Georgetown specialist, so I'm going to give this to the agent A in Georgetown.
Sure. Look, I think the best quarterback is the quarterback and the person that knows how to play football. And the ISA is a great bridge, but the way I operate is very simplistic. So by having Zillow Flex in 2020, what does it mean? It means instead of paying up front, I pay on success. So I was able to take that six-figure check and build an assembly line. Built a director of data finance, media team, an agent on demand team where we could run and do errands for other agents. We built a transaction coordination department from 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. We built an ISA department inside sales in the Philippines with about 7 ISAs on the backside, data scrubbers, and then all the tools for the CRM. The leads come in from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. daily. You break it in 2 shifts, 8 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. and 2:30 to 9. You put, depending on the volume of leads, you have a certain amount of agents that are on those shift that you just turn on like a train track, and you load up their zip codes that they're in. Consumer-based makes leads. The train tracks come to them, and so when you're on the shift, your phone has a certain number that comes in that knows it's a lead, and you'll know it's a live transfer. Whoever picks up gets the client, and it's the agents that answer the phone first,
Right.
because I want them to be the voice of truth, right? Not, hey, let's put you on hold, so on hold, on hold, on hold, on hold. No way, it's annoying. So we have ISAs on the backside on the third ring in case because you never know where the 4 agents are.
Yeah.
They could all be sleeping. Who knows what the hell they're doing? But you never know, because you can't tell they're not in sync, like in the same room.
Right.
But by having the phone calls and having a certain amount of agents, you have less fallout.
Mm-hmm.
And so your answer rate's really critical mass. If you don't answer, you lose the leads and you don't know what you lost. And each one of those leads is $400 or $500, that phone call, if you look at a retail value.
Mm-hmm.
So we started adding ISAs on the backside. So we went from a 60% answer rate to an 86%.
Wow.
So that was really important.
That's great.
And then we changed shifts. So people know that they have 10 shifts, 15 shifts a month. They can adjust their schedules around it. And then when agents answer the phone, if they can't handle the lead, they pass it through Slack. Our Slack mechanism, our communication tool, Salesforce tool. Pass it around. That's it. And then the ISAs are there also on the backside when 95% of the lead flow just goes in a nurture bucket or goes in a rejected stage. And then our ISAs are constantly calling and then bringing them back again. So I don't let any of the water hit the ground, right?
Yeah.
So everyone's a buyer, just a matter of when, right? So we're converting about almost 5% within a 96-day window from the time they come in. We have data on all of it. I know what days have the highest volume. I know all of it.
Yeah.
But the point is that it's very systematic order. You want agents to be organized. You want them to be focusing on the consumer experience, not writing paperwork, right? So we have, again, let's say you leave a house today at 5 o'clock, you press a little, go to the app, boom, boom, here's your LOI. TCs will write your offer. They'll send it to the buyer. They'll send it to the listing agent. They'll handle the file from A to Z, not after you write the offer, and vice versa on the listing side. So I wanted to create that ecosystem for them so they can just focus on what they're good at. Open the door, focus on your consumer, and give them that experience. And so by being on this flex model allowed me to really build an assembly line of efficiency.
That's fascinating. I mean, I think that's such a different way of working the real estate business. I think, so many agents do everything themselves and want to, control everything.
It's important to know that, but if you can take it away, it's
right.
best.
And delegating to others, then you really can focus on the sales process.
Look, we did 2,000 units in 3 years, right? And we're a small team at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And I did $1 billion in sales since 2020. And that's highly impossible for a small team with
how many agents do you have on your team?
I have 40, but I would tell you that 28 of them are in the flex model, and then others are just more like self-gen, right? And not everyone's in flex either.
Got it. So do they have to, as an agent, do they have to buy into the flex model? How does that work?
No, it's a percentage based.
Okay.
So you can't be on Zillow as a paying customer is the only prerequisite. And so you have to drop that, and then you just convert into, and then you get a percentage for, obviously, Zillow gets a cut between 20 and 35%. And then depending on the sale price, and then the agents get a percentage of the sale as well.
Got it.
And that's it. So there's no buy-in to anything,
Mm-hmm.
but they all get their transaction coordinator full-time. They get all the resources that we have, and they get me.
That's it. I mean, if you just quantify that, like in a 2-year stretch, 2,000 transactions and $1 billion in volume sold is impressive for any firm. I mean, that's
yeah. We were
impressive.
15 million
Your
down
team.
from last year to this year, so it's not bad. And we were 70% loss or reduction in sales in Q4.
Right.
I mean, it's pretty. I mean, I look back. I mean, when you're running so fast, it's very hard to look back and appreciate it. But my squad is amazing. They're resilient. They went through every obstacle.
Mm-hmm.
This is a psychology ego game. I don't teach real estate. I teach psychology and how to manage personalities and how to deal with problems and obstacles. And if you think if you're not good at any of that part, being human, we all are breaking walls down for every single consumer. Whether you're your girlfriend, the boyfriend, the husband, the wife, the friend, we're all in the business of breaking walls down because we've all been burned in some capacity.
Mm-hmm.
So I teach them how to be human beings, real people doing real estate, right? And that's the key to me is ethics, respect, being somebody. Everyone wants somebody to listen to them. They want a partner. They want an oak tree. They need a rock, and they need somebody who's resilient. They don't need someone who's selling them on a house. The house sells itself. That's easy. There's only one shoe in the retail space. They're gonna write an offer. Like, now what? What's your value?
So what do you guys say is your niche? Do you say that you do anything like, everywhere in D.C., Maryland, Virginia, or do you guys specifically have kind of a hold in some market?
So going backwards, I've been taught that you never leave money on the table.
Mm-hmm.
So I've always had this huge radius. I have 217 zip codes, for example, on my lead bucket. However, we're at one third, one third, one third when you break down the data in regards to sales, whether it's majority Montgomery, PG County, more so Montgomery,
Okay.
and then Northern Virginia and DC, you know? So we're pretty much all over the place. So we have a residential division, and then we have a commercial side as well. A lot of our commercial assets, we do development, asset management, raise capital, we have a fund, and majority of our assets are in the DC proper, doing light tech, affordable housing, things like that. But so we're spread out pretty much in the three kind of DMV areas from resi side, and the commercials really right now in DC. And of course, we have a Florida office as well.
Okay. We're in Florida.
Wynwood, in
It's a great
our
area.
district.
I love that
Oh,
area.
okay.
Yeah.
Because
It's-
we have
it's
a
my
place
vibe.
in Delray, but I
Yeah.
drive through there and it's like that's the place to be now. Because if you go over to South Beach, it seems like it's dead over there. Everything is over in Wynwood.
I'm all about like the cool office space, the DJ booth,
Yeah.
like the
Yeah.
collaborative spirit, the Google of real estate, like Bagatelle brunch if you're familiar,
Yeah.
you know, like that type of vibe.
I was gonna say I went there on a bachelorette party, but
There you go.
only time I've been there.
So how many people are on your team now? So you had 40 agents. How many people across the board going all the way back to the Philippines with your ISAs?
Yeah, we have 15 virtual 16 virtual assistants. They're awesome, by the way. The only time they're ever off is when there's a tsunami. God bless them. And then we have about 11 on staff, employees, and we have about 40 agents. And I mean, like I said, I mean, we get people coming to us all. I don't really recruit. I
Mhm.
never really tried, and it's always been organic. And so, I mean, we turn down a lot of people. But you know, I'm hoping that this year could be hopefully a change. You can only give so much if you don't have enough to give. When a lot of people need, if you can't give them 100%, I'm always the type of person like I'm not going to board someone just to board a human being and change their life. You know, if I can't offer them my all.
So you seem like you're just going and at all hours of the day, but kind of how do you break up your days, your weeks? You know, what do you do for fun? Or is
Oh, I'm having fun right now.
exactly.
But you know, I wake up in the morning. I'm not an early riser at
Okay.
all. Hell no.
So this
But,
10 o'clock was tough for you to
Yeah.
get in here.
yeah, typically, because my brain doesn't really function until noon.
Right.
But anyways, I'm here.
Yeah.
And so like in the morning, I usually get up around 8:39,
Mhm.
kind of get my coffee. If I can catch my kid in the morning and my wife, say hello, goodbye, good morning, whatever. If I can take him to school, I'll try. But usually the wife is awesome about that. And then I get to the office, or I work from home for a little bit, and then I'm off to the races throughout the day, meetings, calls. I always I love catching up with agents. So pretty much a majority of my day is outside of big relationships and things like that. It's really the granular stuff. Like what's going on with you? What's going on with your client? Let's talk offer strategy. Like I like to be in that war with them.
Mhm.
And then usually I get home between 5 and 7, have dinner with the fam, and son goes to bed, watch TV, we'll go to a game, travel here and there. But like I sleep really well. I don't stress. Like to me, I think I've learned a long time ago to assess your threat level on things.
Okay.
And at the same time, like I'm alive, like who cares? Like what are you gonna do? It's just real estate and it's not gonna bite you. And so I just try to be cool and calm and collected, even though like my mind is running at a million miles an hour and I'm living in controlled chaos. But I think as 41 years old, I've learned to just balance and just take things step by step and hit your majority ticket items and your medium and your low ticket. And I'm learning every day too, right? How to be a better operator, better human, better whatever. But like, I find time, and there's never like I'm working, but it's like illegal that what I'm doing, like because it's like I'm having a blast.
That's awesome.
So what are your team meetings like, or your office firm meetings? I can just envision it's Wolf of Wall Street,
Yeah.
Leonardo DiCaprio, you're up on a table screaming, yelling, dancing.
Well, I
you
don't want to
guys-
do all that. That's a little crazy. We're not taking to Atlantic City anymore to
Right.
Borgata, right? Who goes there? Anyways, but no, like yesterday I had a team meeting. So, one of this year is even more so for me that the agents need me more than ever.
Mhm.
And, as much as, you can run a company and you can sit at your desk and you're doing all these high level meetings and blah, 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 they don't give a shit. They don't care. And, they want you to be front facing. And so I made it a really a big point this year to really be more granular and be more involved, even though we have leadership and team leads and all this stuff. In the end, what do agents care about? They want to transact. They want someone to answer their question, and they want some resources. And so yesterday, I sat them all down, came to the office in Bethesda, and we talked. We went around the room. Let's talk about what we did last year. What we're going to change this year. I don't push them on deals. I never say, hey, where's your deals? You'll never hear that from me. And you'll never hear that I'm your boss. I'm your partner. And I'm here to work with you. And I can guarantee you my work ethic. And we just kind of go around and just collaborate together. what's going on with your deals, and then they start flowing with that. Then I extract, some stuff to learn from that, and this is what you can do on this and this. So it's like just a very open forum kind of thing, and it's just about, like I said, everyone's sharing collectively together their wins, their losses. It's never about money, and it's never really about deals, like pushing them and feeling pressure. To me, anyone that's swinging at the plate is better than someone sitting in the parking lot, right? I'll take that all day, and I'll take attitude over money any day, right? I'll fire somebody at 25 million bucks if they have a shitty attitude. I can't take it; it's cancer, right? But our things are very collaborative, very fun. Like everyone's talking, everyone's networking with each other, helping each other, and that's the environment that I built, and I want to be a part of. Like this is kind of like my family, right?
Yeah.
And so it's just very uplifting, energetic. And I think after yesterday's meeting, I mean, they were rah-rah, It's not just words. I mean, words are just BS, but it's the actions that go behind it. Them knowing they can call me at any time, talk about any deal. They want to vent, they want to cry, call me. I'll put you in the right direction. Because they need to be the rock for somebody else, and I can be their rock, and I find a way to have somebody else be my rock. You know what I mean?
That's good. I have another question. You have and I should have asked this earlier, but you have a very robust system on the back end. What is your CRM that you use?
I use Follow Up Boss.
Follow Up Boss.
Okay.
It's our main CRM. It actually, with Zillow now, so Dan Corkle is a guy I know out of Australia. He was the owner of Follow Up Boss, and it became huge. And I think now Follow Up Boss, I call it FUB or FUB, is now like a direct connect with Zillow's platform, right? So anyone on the Zillow platform, they communicate together really easily for notes instead of doing notes in two places or stages in two places. Right. But Follow Up Boss is what I've used everything from Boomtown to Commissions Inc. to whatever over the years. But Follow Up Boss has become the most practical, mobile-friendly, consumer-friendly, agent-friendly data piece or tech piece. And then we use Slack for communication. We use Tableau for data, which is also a Salesforce company. We use Salesforce on our commercial side. We use Rethink, which is also another layer CRM on our commercial. Google Business for email, which I love. And we build our own proprietary software on the back end through our digital strategist. And then we have our own agent on demand system. You can order media. You can order agents to go see houses for you. We have a back end training system where once you pass through certain levels, it unlocks a transaction coordinator. Like we can watch your behavior.
Yeah.
I'm not into the whole I've seen this and I've watched this BS.
Right.
Show me that you've done it. So it's like a video game. You want a transaction coordinator? Finish this course.
Yeah, so I'm thinking like Mario Brothers. My son's into that.
Yeah, I just find it like if you want to lie to yourself. Like just come on. Like I don't play that game.
And so you are taking. It sounds like you're taking agents in basically, from the ground level. Maybe
I have
someone that's
not I mean the last round of people, people. I mean I'll do a lot of social here and there, and actually the last couple I got from TikTok.
Oh wow!
They hunted me down, ran into my office, was like, "Hey, I want to be your intern." I was like, "Okay, let's share some ideas. You can help me with TikTok. I'll help you with learning. You sit on my couch for the next 5 months. You can learn everything you want." And that one guy, he was 18 years old. Omar, if you're listening, you're the man. And I think he's 19 or almost 20 now. He goes to GW. I mean, I think in his first real year, he did, I think, almost 10 or $12 million.
Wow, that's
actually
awesome.
13 million, excuse me.
Wow.
I remember I saw his post the other day.
Yeah.
But that's pretty incredible. But like these kids are like, I look at myself in them, but with all the resource. Back then I had carbon paper contracts, yellow pages. I was using maps to go to find homes, like playing Battleship. And so, but today they have a lot more resources and they're a lot smarter. And a lot of these agents that are really young, they just, I don't know, they just see like a different level of mindset that they have is pretty incredible. But yeah, I've taken a lot of people from the ground, from the green, and turned them into something. But I'm a gut guy. If I feel your energy and all that good stuff, not everyone's going to have goals. Not everyone's they're not me, right? And then you have to learn that you have to find the best out of people. But I've been blessed to really find amazing talent organically.
That's awesome.
So we've talked a lot about AK, but we did not mention in the podcast, you switched at a certain point from AK to One Street. Can you kind of walk us through the thought process and why One Street?
Yeah, sure. Well, it's a new day and age. I mean, I think it was time for a rebrand and a refresh. And I think it was more universal. I learned from the street. I'm one person, One Street. It's very simple.
It is very simple.
Not to say that that's exactly the reason, but at the street was a part where it's like, it's connotation to real estate. It's kind of like when you go to Cheesecake Factory, you have this big ass book. Like I never want to eat there, right? So I only order one thing. You go to a place like Woodmont Grill, it's one page. Like I like the mystery. Like what is One Street? Like I don't care that we're a real estate company. where other people would argue like, hey, that's not smart. You should have real estate in your name. Well, I don't care. Like, you know, right? Like, we're the little ninjas, that need to, to get stuff done. But it's the One Street company.
Right.
I like the word one because everything starts with one, and we're number one. And, I learned from the street. So I just thought it was a cool name. I love coming up with names. It's my favorite thing to do.
That's cool. So where do you see the One Street company in 10 years?
Well, I hope it doesn't turn into Two Street.
You do say you like coming up with names, so is it like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Street?
I mean,
Two Street's a different jurisdiction down in Florida or California.
I really hope we can become a perennial force in the commercial game and the residential game, and like really just do something special. Whether it's just continue to do what we're doing now, it's like build communities, help agents, give them infrastructure, give them a plan, give them great leadership. I mean, in the end, real estate's very simple. You're an agent, you're a team lead, you're a broker, done. You're your buyer's agent, seller, investor, commercial, done. I mean, it's not much rocket science to it, but like, I just wanted to leave a lasting legacy of that, something that people can take away and said, you know what, I learned a lot and I grew a lot and it changed my life, whether you worked internally or whether you were a part of our ecosystem. And, I'm not really into the whole, like, let's go to every country and open 100 million offices. No, I just really think that as long as we can, be that boutique, be that exclusive company that really helps everyone and that's inclusive, that's really what matters at the end of the day.
That's cool. Do you see expanding out of Florida, to another state, or?
It's possible. Maybe space. I don't know if Elon will let us there.
Mars.
Yeah, why not?
Right. If you had to go back 20 years, what one piece of advice would you give yourself?
Oh, I think if I could go back, to be honest with you, it would probably be to get a mentor. Maybe somebody else to talk to that wasn't somebody on my payroll, or somebody that's my friend, or whether it was, I mean, look, I luckily lived next door to an attorney when I bought my house in the Kentlands when I was 19, and he would literally come over and I'd learn law, right? And I remember paying him for 5-hour retainer every month. Even though he was my neighbor, we knew how to separate friendship and whatever. But I paid 5 hours, $1,000 a month for a period of time. And I wouldn't call it a mentor, but he was at least my legal counsel for that time. But going back, obviously having reserve of money, I think is really important. So I think, because what I've seen a lot of times with agents is they put money first before the client. And they'll do things that are not really in the best interest, and because they're not clearly thinking clearly. It is what it is. It happens. But I don't like that. Then at the same time, having a mentor or advisor, something of that nature, could have been maybe good. I wouldn't have never thought of it because you think you know everything. You're right. But like looking back, and even today, I don't really have one, but I have a really good network of friends and a good virtual boardroom, if you will, And I've also had great staff. I mean, I had an attorney that ran my company and been running my company for 7-8 years, Claire Buckner. She's amazing. So, I mean, I've been able to fill the gaps in places where we've had great advisors and great leadership, because for me, you reverse engineer what you can't do and you create a role, right?
Yeah.
Well, Semmer, thank you so much for coming in today. It's been a pleasure having a conversation with you. One Street is phenomenal out there in the marketplace. We've done a few transactions with your team, and they're always smooth. Love the back-end systems. We're going to close shop here with just a few rapid-fire questions, and Leslie's going to hit you with word association. So what is your guilty pleasure?
My guilty pleasure. I think Reese's Cups.
Reese's Cups.
Nice.
What about the Reese's Pieces at the Wizards games?
No, I don't like those. I like the Reese's Cups. I like the peanut butter. It's bad news for me.
You mentioned sometimes you watch TV as you're going to bed. Are you binge watching anything now?
Yeah, I'm watching Game of Thrones over.
Game of Thrones
Yeah,
over.
I've been saying Castle Black and Winter's Coming to people, so I've been scaring people a lot.
Right.
And so, but I've been watching, because I watched The House of Dragons recently, and I watched Game of Thrones, but my God, am I enjoying watching Game of Thrones over.
That's awesome.
I have not seen that. I'm going to have to
What?
dive into that.
Come
I haven't
on, bro.
seen it.
You gotta
Yes.
get keyed in. Come on.
Yeah.
Which Seinfeld character are you?
Pat Kramer.
Kramer? He's great. He's my favorite. So the Mega Millions jackpot is currently just over $1 billion. If you hit that jackpot, what would you do with it?
I've never played Lotto, believe it or not, in my whole life. What would I do with it?
If you won $1 billion, what would you do?
I mean, first I'd probably take the lump sum money, or find the hedge fund that would want to pay me out and give me more.
Right.
And then I just make sure, I don't know if you say this, and I don't know what the monetary number would be, but I would love to give all my friends and everyone around me enough money where they can just be happy and we can all live and enjoy. But I always feel like there's always a horror story to that too.
Right.
Yeah.
But ideally, in a nice, perfect world, everyone around me could be happy, and
You could probably do that
Do
with
it.
$1 billion.
I think so.
Yeah.
I hope so.
How many Zillow zip codes can you buy?
I wouldn't buy
Right.
anything. I'd buy Zillow.
All of them.
Buy Zillow.
I'd buy
That's
Zillow.
the- Yeah,
Exactly.
that's the way to
I'm
go.
not buying any zip codes.
Right.
I'm writing the checks now.
Your favorite car? I know you're a car guy.
Ferrari 812 Superfast.
Okay, that was a quick one.
I know.
Leslie?
All right. Word association. So I'll say a word and then you give me the word that comes to mind in your head. So podcast.
Fun.
Market.
Hard.
DC.
Historic.
Neighborhood.
Community.
And restaurant.
BLT.
Nice.
Very well said. Well, again, thanks for coming out to this show. We always give a donation to a charity of our guest choice. Is there anybody you want to give a shout out to today?
Obviously, I want to give to my staff. I think for my leadership, to our agents, I wouldn't be where I'm at today without you guys and our collective efforts of growth and just supporting each other and being collaborative, like we talked about. This is just the beginning of an awesome year and awesome chapter moving forward. Obviously, my wife, my son, and everyone that's close to me. I mean, I wouldn't be where I'm at today without that collective group.
Awesome. Samir, thank you so much.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Thanks for listening to Keyed In with your hosts, Max and Brent, unlocking the minds of the industry's top real estate professionals. For more information on selling your home, find us online at keyedinpodcast.com. Remember to subscribe to Keyed In on Apple Podcasts or wherever you like to listen to podcasts. Follow us on Instagram at Keyed In Podcast, at Rabin Max, and at Brent E. Jackson. And follow Max on TikTok at MaxwellRabin_properties.